will be Don West Jr., and Paul and Rachel are handling the sound tech in the building. Dara will do the chalice lighting in just a minute, honey. Well, welcome to all. It is so good to be together. Each Sunday, anywhere there is a service held in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a chalice is lit. The flaming chalice is the symbol of our faith. Dara has lit our chalice here in the fellowship building this morning. And if you have joined us by Zoom, I invite you to light a chalice within your home. Each month, the International Council of Unitarians and Universalists chooses a global chalice lighting reading. And the global chalice lighting reading for this month was offered by the Unitarian community of Rio de Janeiro. We light this flame as a reminder of our mission of being a light of the world, in unity with those who came before us and with whom we are a spiritual family. We commit to the building of a community of free faith beyond geographic limits and personal beliefs. May we be a shelter to all who need it most. At UUFLB, we are a welcoming congregation. Whoever you are, whomever you love, no matter your age or gender, your racial or ethnic background, economic or immigration status, whatever sincere questions you bring with you today, we welcome you to our community of mutual caring and serious intent to grow as spiritual and moral beings. Our fellowship meets every Sunday morning for worship, including a social justice service on the fourth Sunday of each month, as well as services led by guest ministers and by our own members. And today we are continuing our series of pilot hybrid services. So we have members and friends who have gathered in person here at the fellowship building in Laguna Beach. We're masked and physically distanced while we're here together in order to stay safe, as well as many others who I can see are joining us from remote locations by Zoom today. So again, welcome to all. It is good to be together in all of the ways that we can join in worship. This summer, part of the work that we are doing as a congregation is to coordinate the ways in which we can hold worship services that welcome attendees who join by Zoom, as well as those who come in person. And this is absolutely a team effort. So many thanks are due to Candy and to Paul, who have been working to make sure the building is ready and welcoming each Sunday, as well as taking care of the building and the beautiful planters that are out front during the week. And then the many people who are working on the logistic aspects, which need to be coordinated for the hybrid worship services. Dawn, Rachel, Donna, Noreen, Mike, Cindy, Peggy, and I'm sure others whom I've forgotten to mention. I've also noticed that everyone who has been attending services this summer has been really generous in sharing with us their thoughts and impressions and ideas for how we can worship together even during this challenging time. So again, thanks to you all. This morning, our service is titled, Want What You Have. These wise words were part of the personal mantra of Reverend Forrest Church, who served as spiritual leader of All Souls UU Church in New York City for nearly 30 years. This mantra, which Reverend Church found to be a powerful source of inspiration, support, and comfort, is the source of our centering thought today. Dawn will bring the words of our centering thought up on the screen, and I invite you to join me in reading and reflecting on these words. Want what you have. Do what you can do. Be who you are. Our sermon today was written by Reverend Peter Friedrichs, who is minister of the UU Church of Delaware County. And he writes that wanting what we have is not a matter of giving up or giving in. Rather, living by this mantra can enable us each to live fully in the present, even in times of challenge, and we certainly know challenge, but to live with an appreciation of all of the gifts of our lives. My guess is that no one of us would have chosen the challenges we are facing now. In the pandemic, with environmental change, and with the terrible unrest in the world, certainly the events of the past week in Afghanistan. And there's no certain path to successful solutions to each of these challenges. So it seems to me that it's especially timely today to reflect on how we can draw from the strength that we gain when we face challenges with a balance of gratitude, awareness, and appreciation for the beauty that is also present in our world and in our lives. So on that theme of beauty that's present in our world and our lives, I would like to invite you to enjoy our opening hymn this morning. The opening hymn is number 128, For All That Is Our Life. And we invite those of you who are attending by Zoom to sing out from home, even though you're muted. Here in the fellowship building, if you wish, you can pick up a hymnal, and it's number 128, For All That Is Our Life. You may join in the music by humming quietly or softly speaking the words. So please enjoy the music of our amazing and talented music director, Carole.
Good morning, everyone. Let's all sing together For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use and build the common good. And make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. All that is our life. For sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. All that is our life. For all life is a gift, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift, which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. Good morning, everyone.
Let us take a moment to remind ourselves why we come together as a community. I invite you to read these words together when and if it feels right for you. For those of you on Zoom, if you wish, please unmute your microphone The sounds will be less coordinated than those of us who are speaking the words here in the fellowship hall, but it is beautiful and powerful when we join our voices together. The words of the unison affirmation will be on your screens. May we
be reminded here of our highest aspirations,
inspired
and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity.
May we
May we
know
know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
We have come now to a time in our service to briefly share the important events that have touched our lives in the past week. We value this fellowship as a sharing community where our joys are amplified and a caring community where our sorrows can be lessened. During this time of sharing our joys and concerns, we will pause the recording of the service. We will of loved ones who are facing health struggles and supporting them and each other in that journey. And then also the journeys of being together with family members who've come from afar to visit or come from close by to visit, opportunities to get out together again with friends in community. And also the joys and concerns, which I know are held this morning but are unspoken. Our sharing at UUFLB gives us comfort and support. So as we speak our joys and sorrows, let us breathe out sorrow and breathe in joy. Breathe out lament and breathe in hope. Breathe out pain, breathe in comfort. Breathe out sorrow and breathe in joy. And now we will restart the recording of the service again as we move to our offertory. It is as much a blessing to be able to give as it is to receive. In this self-governing, self-sustaining community, we recognize it as our responsibility to both give and receive and to do both well. So during this time of offering, we will be passing a basket here within the fellowship. And the information on your screen provides 2 additional ways in which you can give, either electronically or by sending a check to the fellowship. Our fellowship depends on the love and the generous contributions from our members, and we are empowered by the innumerable gifts of all of those who join in covenant with us. Service, trust, collaboration, patience, humor, compassion, curiosity, time, and the gift of financial contribution, which allows the fellowship to meet its financial commitments. All of our gifts, generously given, are needed for this fellowship and for the continued good work that we can do in the world. Now, please sit comfortably in your chair. Place your feet on the ground. Dawn will be bringing up a slide for our meditation. And you can look at the beautiful slide, or you may choose to close your eyes. Let your hands rest quietly in your lap. Feel your body relax as you follow your breath, as you breathe in and out, in and out. Our words of meditation today are from Reverend Richard Gilbert. They'll be followed by a short period of silence after which we'll have music from Carole that will bring us out of our time of meditation. In the midst of the whirling day, in the hectic rush to be doing, in the frantic pace of life, pause here for a moment, catch your breath, relax your body, loosen your grip on life. Consider that our lives are always unfinished business. Imagine that the picture of our being is never complete. Allow your life to be a work in progress. Do not hurry to mold the masterpiece. Do not rush to finish the picture. Do not be impatient to complete the drawing. We are always in process, and always there is more to be done. Do not let the incompleteness weigh on your spirit. Do not despair that imperfection marks your everyday. Do not fear that we are still in the making. Let us instead be grateful that the world is still to be created. Let us give thanks that we can be more than we are. Let us celebrate the power of the incomplete, for life is always unfinished business. Well, as I said earlier, our service today is based on a sermon which was written by Reverend Peter Friedrichs, minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Delaware County, and shared with us through the UU Association's Worship website, which is wonderful reading, and I encourage you to explore it if you haven't. Reverend Friedrichs writes, for nearly 30 years, Forrest Church served as spiritual leader of the All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church in New York City. During his ministry, the church became both a haven for spiritual seekers and a beacon of social outreach to the community. He helped to found a shelter for homeless women in Harlem, a scouting program for boys and girls at a welfare hotel, a soup kitchen adjacent to the church. And during his lifetime, Church authored and co-authored nearly 20 books on topics ranging from American history to liberal religion and spirituality. He was frequently interviewed as the voice of liberal religion on National Public Radio and local television broadcasts. And so you may have read his books or heard him speak. When he was called to All Souls, the attendance at that church hovered around 100 members, and it is now in excess of 1,000 members. By all means, Church's ministry was public, prolific, and powerful. But as with all of us, frail, fallible human beings, Forrest fought his demons too. In the year 2000, he acknowledged his alcoholism, joined AA, and remained sober for the remaining years of his life. And he faced other struggles as well. And what perhaps made him a popular pastor and preacher is that he faced those struggles head on, and he used them to inform his ministry of compassion and hope. In February 2008, he informed his congregation that he had been diagnosed with esophageal cancer and that the doctors expected him to live but a few more months. So with this death sentence in hand, Forrest Church did what he did best and picked up his pencil and paper, and he began to write. The book that resulted from these efforts is called Love and Death: My Journey Through the Valley of the Shadow. He expected this to be his final work, but as a result of an experimental treatment for his disease, he lived longer than he predicted, and he managed to write one final work, which was titled The Cathedral of the World, a Universalist Theology, which was published by Beacon Press after his death in 2009. And in an interview conducted shortly before he died, Forrest Church described the importance of writing Love and Death. He said, "It allowed me to write a coda to my pastoral theology, to my lifelong belief that love and death interwoven are the heartstrings of religion." And he goes on to say, "I have a mantra that I've come to live by over the past few years, and it's served me very well." It's the one that we spoke earlier during the service today. Want what you have. Do what you can. Be who you are. As a summary of a philosophy, a theology, a statement of faith, a way of life, these three statements warrant some attention. And so, in tribute to Forrest Church, Reverend Peter Friedrichs, who actually never knew Forrest Church directly, but whose words and life touched him deeply, Reverend Peter Friedrichs chose to spend 3 Sundays exploring these statements, and our sermon today is drawn from his reflections on the first statement: want what you have. These seem like strange words. Want what you have. Strange words coming from someone who was diagnosed with a terminal disease at a young age. No one wants to have cancer at any age. So to understand Forrest Church's prescriptive, we need to put it into a larger context, which he provided in his books. In Love and Death, as in some of his other works on theological reflection, Church asks us to imagine that our lives are made up of a large window with many panes. If you like, you can think of the image of a stained glass window, maybe the windows that we have here in the back of the sanctuary. Each pane is made up of some aspect of our life: our job, our hobbies and interests, our health, our relationship with our partner or spouse or our children. And at any given time in our lives, he tells us, some of these panes are going to be clear and bright with the sun shining through them, and others are bound to be clouded over, perhaps even shaded or opaque. And while we may be enjoying a particularly productive time in our work lives, things at home with our partner might be strained. Or perhaps we're deliciously, deliriously in love with a new mate, but it strains our relationships with friends. You get the idea. Some of our windows are rosy and allow the light to stream in, while others may be a bit foggy or even boarded up. Forrest states that as human beings, we have an inclination to focus on, maybe even to obsess about the cloudy window panes, to the exclusion of the sunny ones. The tendency, he writes, is to press our nose up against that one frame, desperately trying to see through it. And when we do this, we can lose all sense of proportion. Our entire world goes black. The effect of this response to a darkened window pane, to pressing our noses up against it, is that we then lose sight of the other planes that do remain clear and bright. The black cloud of the unreasonable boss at work is carried home and darkens our family relations. The betrayal by a friend makes all of our other friendships suspect. And when our health is compromised, all we see ahead is a lifetime of pain. When one of our window panes goes dark, Church tells us, we literally lose sight of the things in our life that are positive and life-affirming and life-giving. Another aspect that bears on Church's advice, want what you have, is found in his book, Freedom from Fear, where Church warns us against engaging in wishful thinking. Instead, he urges us to practice what he calls thoughtful wishing. His premise is that wishful thinking leads to a certain disappointment, a disappointment that can easily blossom into a paralyzing fear. Until we learn to wish for the right things, he writes, what we wish for will only come true by accident. What's worse is if we wish for the wrong things, then the fear of disappointment will dog us from one broken dream to the next. And he goes on to tell us that happiness doesn't follow when we long for what we lack, for things we have lost or may likely never find. Longing for something we may find in the future distracts us from enjoying the present. Wishful thinking is both sloppy and sentimental. And so he urges us not to engage in wishful thinking, but in thoughtful wishing. Wishing, he says, for what is ours, here and now, to have, do, or be. Some examples of thoughtful wishes could include the courage to bear up when things are difficult, the liberation that comes with forgiveness, the joy to be gained in even smallest tasks, and the wonder that lies between the sacred moments of our birth and our death. And so it is through these two lenses, the lens of our lives as a many-paned window and the lens of thoughtful wishing, that Forrest Church urges us to want what we have. Wanting what we have encourages us to wish for things thoughtfully and to pray for the right things. It urges us to step back from the darkened, opaque window pane that we have our noses pressed against so that we can see and appreciate all the other panes that remain brightly illuminated. Wanting what we have enables us to live fully in the present with an appreciation of all the gifts of our lives and an acceptance of those things that we would never consciously wish upon ourselves. And so Reverend Friedrichs writes, I think it's important to spend a few minutes talking about what want what you have does not mean. First and foremost, wanting what we have is not about tacitly accepting our fate or our condition. It is not about giving in. It does not mean that we have to stay in an abusive relationship or embrace an illness that can and should be treated aggressively as possible. To want what we have is not to relinquish our responsibility to care for ourselves and for others, or to look at the suffering, pain, and injustice in the world and say, c'est la vie. That is not what it means. Forrest Church treated his aggressive form of cancer aggressively, undergoing an experimental treatment that added more than a year to his life. So wanting what we have does not require us to just sit back and take it. And wanting what we have similarly is not about letting go of the natural yearnings we have as human beings. We will, I believe, always desire more of the good things in our lives, more love, deeper connection, greater meaning and purpose. To want what we have does not call us to rest contentedly with our situation or the status quo. It does not negate or nullify ambition. Marianne Williamson famously tells us we are powerful beyond measure. We are brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous. Wanting what we have does not mean living small. Rather, it means tending to all of the panes in our window to allow as much light as possible to shine in, and to allow as much of our own light as we possess to shine out into the world. And finally, wanting what we have does not require us to become boring and dull or to forego imagination and creativity. While thoughtful wishing probably tells us that we shouldn't waste our time praying that we'll win the lottery, I would say that there's no harm in dreaming and daydreaming. We must remain Imagineers and co-creators of our own lives, caretakers of wonder. Fantasy can be a powerful release. Wanting what we have just means that we should not be consumed by the fantasy, constantly living in a world of what ifs or if ever. Or if we do, we're sure to end up disappointed and depressed, infecting our real lives, which contain real goodness with disillusionment. To want what we have is to engage in a deep spiritual practice of appreciation. We've all heard the lines from the Joni Mitchell song. You don't know what you've got till it's gone. I wish I could sing it for you, but I'm not going to inflict that on you, but you can probably hear it in your head. Wanting what we have calls us to constantly keep in our awareness the things that we would miss, the things we would long for terribly, were they to be taken from us. When we want what we have, we don't take things for granted. To use Forrest's language, we see all the panes of the window, the bright, clear ones and the cloudy ones alike, and we are grateful for the light that shines through them all. Wanting what we have helps us to know and to love what we've got before it's gone. Wanting what we have is not a passive exercise. Want, desire, acceptance, and appreciation are acts of volition. It calls us to make a choice between longing for some other state, some other perhaps unspecified place, anywhere but here, thank you very much, between longing for that and longing for where we are, living with what we've got. It requires us to actively engage in our lives as they are now, to live our lives with deep meaning and conviction, even if they're not the lives we might have hoped or planned for. To want what we have calls our attention back from the other side of the fence where that greener grass of our fantasy beckons and asks to apply our energies to tending our own yards, to digging out our own weeds, and to making our own gardens more beautiful. Reverend Friedrich writes, I have no doubt that there are those here today who do not want what they have. Fear of losing a job, anxiety over the choices a loved one is making, depression that life has not worked out the way we've planned. It seems almost trite to say it, but the truth is that life is hard, really hard, sometimes, maybe all of the time, and often we wish it were otherwise. We pray for salvation from pain and suffering, and sometimes we seek relief and release in ways that are hurtful to ourselves and to others. With our face pressed up against the darkest pane of the glass, we are unable to see sometimes anything but darkness. And yet, whether we see it or not, the light still shines in through those other panes. The light of the morning sun rising each day. The light of our grandchild's smile. The light of a friend's constant companionship. The light of life, which is our single greatest gift. These are the things we have and that we can hold on to. And if we do, we will never go wanting. Amen and blessed be. And so our closing hymn this morning is number 1064 in the teal hymnals. And the hymn is a favorite hymn in this congregation, Blue Boat Home. So I see Rachel is accessing blue hymnals for those who want to read or sing or hum along with Carole as she leads us in number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
So please join me to sing one of our favorite songs, Blue Boat Home.
That was lovely. I think Carole's music is one of those bright panes in the window of my life and the opportunity to hear it and sing it together. Our closing words today are written by Reverend Forrest Church. It is tempting to seek meaning not in what we have, but in what we desire. When we do this, we practice wishful thinking. Of the enemies that frustrate our search for meaning, this is perhaps the most traitorous. It places fulfillment forever beyond our reach in what we do not have, in what we cannot do, in who we shall never be. Meaning doesn't emerge from longing for what we lack, things we have lost, or will likely never find. Instead, we should wish to think for things closer at hand, like the sun's good morning when it breaks through the blinds to inaugurate another miracle, another day. Now is the time for us to extinguish the chalice within our homes and here at the fellowship. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now we will join in our closing song. Again, we'll have Carole's music to lead us. Here within the fellowship, we can make a circle staying distant from each other as we hum quietly or mouth the words of our favorite closing song to end our worship today. And for those of you who have joined us by Zoom, please stay for the virtual cafe after the service, and we'll use the laptops here so that those are here in person can interact together with you. So again, please join Carole in Let There Be Peace on Earth.